is getting exposed, whether it's on either side, I don't care. But
Right.
the amount of monkey business going on at the federal level is just, we know that it's bad, you know, uh,
That's true.
especially when it was when from the top down government they were funding this internews uh, uh, entity that, if you look at the address, it was uh, some derelict place in somewhere in California that
Okay.
directed a censorship organization that basically shut down anything that was the opposition. So I say fantastic that we're showing this.
Even though they just got rid
Not,
of the Doge
not
guys. So,
so but what happens in any kind of uh, let's call it a small revolution here is that the people that get money from the government, they go to the trough like little pigs. They
okay.
all begin to squeal because they're losing their money, and they're losing the little part of money that they never should be getting because they just
Okay.
do absolutely squat for it. Squeak, squeak,
So,
squeak, like little pigs.
yeah, but the
You know,
problem with that is the USAID, for an example, did a lot of stuff with the US government testing things like in South Africa. And Roll can tell you about it because his daughter works there. So it's hurting us, not them. So it's
well,
interesting.
yeah, it's
I'm looking.
interesting that you just hear these little small little things, now that the money is getting cut, but the idea is that it was unaccountable, right?
Right.
The purse did not come from the Congress. You know what? And there's plenty of evidence that they circumvented, Department of State policy and did stuff that was contrary to what
There's a
the other
shocker.
side
That's
of.
only been going on since after World War II. So,
Yeah.
it's
So hey, look, if it's not working, close it down. Yeah. The thing is,
preaching to the
you can't have
choir.
pretty things. Shut down things and not have collateral damage. As you always say, it's just war. Okay, well, this is war too. And
I
it's
know.
our freaking money,
I'm okay.
right?
Listen, this what they're doing, and we'll talk about this more on the show. When the actual host shows up, but what they're doing with some of it, I'm okay. With other things they're doing, I look at it going, did you ever read, I don't know, a finance book, an economics book, or anything? And that goes from Musk down to his 19-year-old who's running the State Department this week, to some of the stuff that Trump's doing. Like one of the things that we're going to talk about with Michael today is the anti-bribery now. They're getting away with that. The 1973 law says you can't bribe foreign officials. There was an op-ed today in the Financial Times. The guy said this could be like the Wild West. I'm like, this is going to be
Yeah,
awesome. I mean,
yeah.
this is going to be like all the best movies ever. So I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on here that
Well, at
the
least
American public has no clue.
it'll be above board. At least we'll know who's paying
Well,
whom.
you mean at least when we bribe now, we won't go to jail for it. All right, well, that's good to go. Yeah, that's good. So,
Well, I
well, and
mean,
if you think about it, the governments now are bribing Trump. Trump's going, if you don't do what I want, there's a tariff. And they're going, like Taiwan today said, no, 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 wait, you misunderstood when we said go pound salt. We're going to invest money in America. So I like his Machiavellian style. The question and the things I read about what Europe's doing in other countries, some of it could backfire. So it'll be interesting. So I think that's going to be part of the
yeah,
topic, which we can start talking about because we've actually hit the live button. So people are watching. We just haven't run the credit check because the other Michael's not here. So,
yeah.
but yeah.
It's
So
well, it's always interesting. How it's just similar to what's happened in Argentina. Not quite the
oh,
same,
that
but
country.
yeah, yeah. They eliminated
Ah,
two-thirds of the government
not
ministries.
the
They
Nazis. Sure, they had to get rid of them because they couldn't find the gold.
fired
So
over 20,000 federal employees. There were
yep.
places where there were more drivers than the people that they were serving. Uh, they cut out the middlemen that were giving out the, let's call it social, government assistance, right?
Right.
They cut those middlemen. Those middlemen used that's I guess their position to force you to go and do protests and show up at government rallies against the opposition or politicians. Right? They took that away; it all disappeared. Right? So I think this is a good movement.
All right. Michael, what do you think? Good movement, bad movement, revolution? What are we going? Back to 1776, Boston Tea Party?
Well, I think that the voters are getting what they voted for,
Yeah.
and maybe what they deserve.
Right.
But I don't think that there's going to be any big changes until the people who voted for Trump find out that they weren't penciled in on the new plan. And once they wake up to that fact, then I think we'll probably get some change. But right now, it's an open field for him. He can go anywhere he wants. He's got the power.
Yeah.
Well, and what's interesting about all of that is even Zelensky, I was listening to him today at the Security Council thing in Europe, and he was like, I'm here to the vice president, like anytime you want to come speak to me, because I know Trump and Putin are trying to negotiate a peace in the Ukraine. The Ukraine's like, how are you negotiating it without us? So I think, as one of the analysts in The Economist wrote, Trump is going to sign all these executive orders, millions of them, throw it against the wall, and hopefully he figures 10% will stick. And that kind of seems what he's doing. So it'll be interesting
the thing is,
to see.
If somebody else comes in power, they can reverse all those executive orders. So I think it's sort of, there are a lot of temporary stuff. A lot of temporary stuff.
I was surprised that he upped the ante on NATO in Europe.
Yeah.
Originally, he was asking them to do 2% of GDP to fund NATO. And then I just read recently where he's asking 5% of GDP for all the countries. That's got to put them all on edge, I think.
I think everything is putting them on edge. I read, you look at the NATO, China's and North Korea and Russia are now having war games, I think next month, and a general in the United States was saying that could be their cover for a surprise attack on Taiwan. And I'm like, dude, you got to calm down. But it's like everybody's on edge. The Orange Man, for nothing short of making Saturday Night Live funny again and making the news cycle at least 24 hours, everybody's on edge about everything. The Europeans are on edge about us. They're like, we used to be your allies. Now Trump's kicking us to the curb. Canada at one point was an ally, and now they don't want to be anything. Mexico, that's all where we got tamales. But anyway, Mexico was, doing things now they don't want to. He makes fun of the bad treaty that was made, but he made it in 2018, which he forgot. So, there's a lot going on.
20% of our development team's time. Yeah. So whenever we ask for anything, integrations or anything like that.
We'll have to remove Michael because he's listening. All right, kids, we're about to start the show here. So the host will be here hopefully in a second when he's done watching news porn. Michael Collins is our guest today for you people on the podcast, if you don't know that. John is here, I'm here, and Michael, of course, is here. David can't make it today. He's having a Viagra problem, so it'll just be all of us. So we're going to run the credits, and then we're going to come back and start the real show.
This is True OF Entertainment.
Welcome to the Lost Dollar Business Club, where we talk about business, and not just business. We talk about what makes businesses go up and what makes businesses go down. If you're interested in businesses, this is where it is. We talk about the global economy. We talk about global politics. We talk about everything and anything business related that affects your life on a global scale as well as a local scale. And don't miss after the show, Lost and Found. All right, kids, we're here. So Mr. Collins is here. There's Michael, our host.
Hey, guys.
Hey, Michael.
All right, good to see you, Michael.
So just to let everybody know, we've been live for about 9 minutes, just going. John got on and he started right off. So we just started to record because John was going. Michael Collins and I were just sitting here going, "You go, John." That's the most John said in the 3 years he's been on any of the shows. So we're very proud of John. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
So,
sure.
Michael, start with
Tariffs-
Michael, and let's roll. Let's start the show.
Okay, I would like to talk today about something I call the new product piracy model.
Okay.
It's a way for large corporations to get new products without having to do the R&D or any costs. My story begins about 15 years ago when I met two people who were both inventors. The first one was a guy named Marty Williams, who started a company called Let's Go Aero in Colorado Springs, Colorado. They manufacture bike racks, camping trailers, and outdoor accessories. The second fellow was a man named Dan Brown, who I met in Chicago. He invented a lot of stuff, but when I met him, he invented something called the bionic wrench, which was a wrench that could automatically adjust to a range of sizes of bolts and nuts. And both went through the costs and the time to get patents there, and they were both looking for marketing and distribution because they were small companies and they wanted to get some national distribution. Marty Williams met a company called Sequent, who was the largest manufacturer in the world of towing equipment. They approached him. They liked his bike rack, and they asked him to sign a marketing manufacturing agreement, a licensing agreement, essentially. The deal was they would give him $400,000 up front and then pay him 7% royalties on everything that was sold. He went for the deal, and it worked out for about a year. On the Dan Brown on the bionic wrench, he found Sears. Sears used to be called Sears Roebuck anyway. Sears was still a going concern back in around 2008, and he thought it would be a good idea if he could get into all their stores and retail outlets. They liked his bionic wrench, and they did a test market in the U.S. and sold 75,000 of the wrenches in a short period of time. So it looked like a good deal. Now, Dan is one of the reasons I got attached to him is he was a big proponent of manufacturing in the U.S. He didn't like the idea of going to China and all of that. So he got an agreement with a manufacturer in Cabot, Pennsylvania. I went to Chicago, and we both went to visit the manufacturer, and he showed me around and how they had like 20 people making this wrench, and it would look pretty good. And so then he found out he got a distributor from Boston who sent him an exact copy of his wrench. In fact, it was such an exact copy, they even used the packaging information on the package. And so then Sears stopped the sales of the bionic wrench, and he found that this new wrench, this knockoff, was from China. Marty, and with Sequent, found out the hard way. He found out when they just quit paying royalties. That's the big red flag. And they also went to China, made a knockoff product and started bringing it in. Now, the way the I've looked into a lot of these, but the way they generally work is like this. First, the corporation goes to trade shows looking for these new products, and they find the new product, particularly a small company, and go and try to get them to sign some kind of an agreement. Then they, in the case of Sequent, once they have the engineering and the tooling, if they're going to manufacture it, then they've got them. They've got them by the throat. So then once they have the tooling and everything, they stop the royalty payments, and then usually they've already made an agreement for a knockoff product. Then the next step is they force the small company who signed the agreement to sue over patent infringement. And the bottom line in all of this is the loss of sales, the loss of royalties and market share, and the cost of litigation in the courts can bankrupt a small company. Not very many that I've talked to had the wherewithal to go into court. Now, both Dan also got a patent infringement lawsuit when Sears stopped paying the royalties, and he found the knockoff product was already being sold by Sears. So they both had lawyer teams and hung in there. Unlike most small companies, they studied. After 8 years of litigation, Marty spent $2.6 million over 12 years and collected $1.7 million because he won the lawsuit. Dan Brown was also like 7 or 8 years in court. And then he got a jury trial in Chicago, and the jury trial awarded him $6 million against Sears. But Sears then appealed. Several years later, they reversed it, and on appeal, he lost. He had, he told me $100,000 of just his own money into the thing, but he lost. The appellate court in Chicago that heard him was a lady who examined the two wrenches and said, she says, I don't think that that the knockoff is a copy. That was it, and he lost. And so, and I haven't been able to get a hold of him since that happened. His old phone number is no longer listed, and I don't know where he went.
So, Michael, how this is obviously a huge loss for the small-time inventor, the small company inventor. But how widespread is this? You're raising the flag on this because this is something that you've seen quite a bit. I mean, how widespread is this practice, and what's the magnitude of it?
Let me read something to you, because this was in my article. There, I found many examples of new product piracy, but the most popular are watches, shoes, clothing, electronic products, medical equipment, cosmetics, jewelry, pharmaceuticals, aftermarket auto accessories is a big problem, and software. The office of the U.S. Trade Representative says the rapid growth of e-commerce platforms has helped fuel the growth of counterfeit and pirated goods into a $500 billion industry now.
So
So
watches especially, because I know places in China and other Japan as well, where you can go and get a knockoff of you name it, and you're not going to tell the difference unless you're an expert in Marc Jacobs, Rolex, Patek Philippe, whoever it is. Their watches, other than the guts, look exactly like the real thing, and they cost anywhere from like $250 to $1,000. So, and I know Big Bertha, the golf company, when we were back in the 80s, when that was the rage that you had your Big Bertha, a buddy of mine came back from China and he was giving away knockoff Big Berthas that were just as good, just as whatever. And he was joking. He was like, they make Big Bertha on the 5th floor at the factory and they make the knockoffs on the 2nd floor type of thing. So I think China's been doing this for a while, and so has Japan. So I don't think it's anything new. I think maybe it's people forget about it. And now with Temu and all that stuff.
I think, Michael, are you pointing to the idea that the digital technologies, now the digital platforms of the digital marketplace, makes this a lot easier to do?
It is. And the fact that we gave China most favored nation status, that put them in as the supplier of all this stuff. I'm sure there are others, but they're the major manufacturer of all this. So it's a huge business now. It's a real problem for people who do software. The digital stuff is hard to protect anyway. And now with with programmers in India and China are about as good as ours, it's really tough. So it's a big. If you go online and look this up, it just is everywhere, and they are and the products that are most easily copied are things that you can put into small packages and mail them here, because you can get in, anything under $800 is free and there's no customs. So my article ended with 3 questions, and so I'd like to ask you guys your opinion on them. The first one is, and this came up, with it was me asking Marty and Dan, is it worth still getting a patent if you're a small manufacturer? What do you think?
Well, it's a tough one. I would say yes, but with the proviso that if you get a patent and somebody comes along and offers you a deal, you have to do some serious due diligence on who's going to manufacture your product. If not, you're going to have to somehow finance it yourself and manufacture it yourself. That seems to be the only way to protect yourself. That would be my opinion.
Well, a second question
What do you think?
that follows. A second question is, should small companies pursue licensing and marketing agreements?
I would say yes, but see, the problem, what I find with small businesses is that they think they know everything and they don't. So you really need to make sure you have a real law firm or someone that at least can read your legal agreement, look at the loopholes. So if you're a small firm and Walmart comes to you, you're going to have to kind of trust that they're not going to screw you, but in the back of your mind, they're going to. So you need to put provisions in there that protect you. And I think a lot of small businesses get excited that Walmart's here or Target or whoever, and they forget about how to protect themselves. And then they don't have good counsel. They probably can't afford good counsel, so they have the local guy, and he's all excited. But they need to hire a national firm and make sure that I think that they get protected so they don't get screwed 5 years down the road with an, oh, by the way, which is going to happen anyway. But you need to then have the onus of it all on your licensing partner, not you.
Well, I would add to that, Stephen, that when I asked Marty after 12 years of litigation about that same question, he still felt that small companies needed
Yep.
these marketing agreements, because they just don't have the resources to get the thing into the market themselves. So, but the caveat is one thing neither Dan nor Marty did was they didn't go vet the company. They didn't look into the company that wanted the agreement, and do the vetting necessary. And so one thing that would really help is if they looked into finding out, and maybe with a lawyer, finding out if the company had made other agreements. They could quickly find out by calling the companies whether people got screwed or what they were like. Neither one of them did very much. And as you say, they're so anxious to get these agreements and get stuff sold, they skip over that and sign on the line. Right. So perhaps getting a lawyer who would specialize in this, or just spending the time. There's a lot you can do now online to find out whether the people you want to sign your life away with have a good track record or not.
Right.
They would have found, Marty would have found out with Sequent, there were all kinds of red flags, and they'd done it to a lot of people. I don't know about.
Yeah.
I found one case where somebody sued Sears over something similar, and Sears lost. So they had done it at least once before. And so the process, spending the time and the money up front to try to find out who you're going to get married to would go a long ways.
Well,
similarly, what was the third question, if I may ask? You had three questions. What was the third?
The third question is can Congress be trusted to enact legislation to protect small manufacturers and inventors? Well, as you guys probably know, in 2011, Congress passed something called the America Invents Law, where they changed the language of patents, and they changed the patent system from first to invent to first to file. And that has really been a big problem for inventors. Then right after that, Congress came up with, as part of the AIA, with a patent trial and appeal board. And as that turns out, let me read it to you. It makes it easy to challenge the validity of any issued patent, often with a lower burden of proof, which can lead to a high rate of patent invalidation. And in fact, it has. It's much harder now to defend patents because they've loosened the rug. It appears that the courts and the Congress still heavily favor the large corporations.
Well, of course, because that's what pays the congressmen to come in.
Yeah.
And it's really nice now that people are losing all this. This just goes with Trump's new get rid of the anti-corruption and bribery law. So this is perfect now. So now you can just pay off people and get things done. And I'm assuming pretty soon we'll be able to pay off the judges and the congressmen. And because that's ultimately where
they're doing that already. They're doing that already.
Yeah, but now it's okay.
The good news is that the $800 loophole has been closed, and now you can't send anything that's under 800, without doing a customs declaration, and so you're going to have to.
Now, John, you're saying that it's the $800 loophole that Trump closed it?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he did
About
that
2 weeks
fairly
ago
early on.
when the post office said they weren't going to do any more packages from China, 24 hours later they said
Yeah,
we misspoke, and then that's when they enacted the everything has to now have a piece of paper to it.
Well,
yeah,
that will stop probably half the fentanyl from coming in, because China puts the fentanyl in a small box and sends it right to your
your doorstep.
house without
Yeah,
anybody seeing it or opening it. So that's good
yeah,
news, John. And I didn't
Then
know that.
now you just drive to you can just
yeah,
drive to Canada and get it. Then we'll give you the address
yeah,
later. No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead. So,
yeah, yeah. So that's at least it's a small it's a maybe a I don't know if it's a small obstacle, but at least it'll be somewhat burdensome on the Chinese side to send stuff. Yeah, they'll try and
right.
find loopholes, but uh, you know, also the consumer also is partly to blame on this, because uh, you a lot of times you see on a platform the original product, and then you see the knockoff, and you can see that there's a dramatic price difference.
Yeah.
And people uh, either don't want to think about the consequences of a knockoff product that maybe certainly isn't the same quality, because it can't be a lot cheaper than the real thing when it's 50% cheaper, right? So I think also consumers people that buy don't think about that aspect of it.
I don't think they care, John. Theoretically,
Yeah, I
I
don't think
mean,
they can.
they go on Amazon and you'll be like, you buy A or B, or you go on Tumu, you can buy A or B, or you go into a store.
Yeah,
I don't think people care anymore.
yeah,
I think people are like, I want what I want, and I always tell people, I try to buy, depending on what I'm buying, I'll buy the most expensive thing of the best quality of what I want for that product. I don't want the knockoff that in 6 months I have to buy another one, even if it's a millionth difference in the price, because by the time I have to buy 100 of them, I just paid for the real thing. So I think
yeah,
the consumer today is, I want it cheap, I want it quick, and I want it fast. And I think that's part of the
yeah,
problem. No one looks at it as, oh, I'm going to buy quality. There's a reason people get bespoke suits or custom watches or whatever it might be. There's a quality to it. They last till you die. There's another reason that some
yeah,
people go out and buy $100 watches or $50 watches in China, and they're broke in 6 months, but they can just keep buying those. So I think it's the mentality of the population. So I personally would blame it more on the consumer than corporate America.
There's another problem though with that, Stephen, is that
Sure.
when you look at Amazon or really any digital marketplace,
Right.
just because they charge more doesn't mean that it's actually a higher quality product. And
I
so
don't
part of
buy
the problem, you don't buy anything off Amazon anyway. But the idea is the consumers have a problem, because you can say, well, I'll buy this knockoff they're going to offer the same knockoff good under a different brand name for $20 as they do for $5, and they're going to think you're getting a different product when you're not. And that's a big problem with all the Chinese goods, I think.
But I'm not talking about even knockoffs. I'm just talking about in general. Like if I'm looking at, I don't know, shoes, a wallet, whatever it is, and I know like Adidas makes good trainers, and then I see a brand that's looks exactly like Adidas, but I know they're crap. Well, and they're $20 compared to say $250, and I know Adidas is going to last me 2 years compared to 2 months. Spend the two, you know what I mean? And I think that's part of the problem. The perception is now everything is reusable or everything is throwawayable. You know what I mean? It's like, why keep it? We can just buy another, buy another. So I think that has a lot to do with it.
Well, the general argument today, every time there's an economist gets on the news and they crybaby about Trump's tariffs.
Right.
And the argument is we can't tariff because we have to have these cheap imported goods because of the living standards of consumers. And then they go on and say it's going to cost each consumer $250 to $1,200 more a year, blah, blah, blah. So the idea is that our American consumers have to have cheap imported products. And so here you go. This is kind of the basis for the argument you're making, Stephen, over going for, the whole mentality is to buy cheap imported products at the lowest price.
If they can't, they won't.
Right.
You can change the mentality to say if you can't access these cheap garbage goods, you're gonna. I think people would make do without or find a solution around it.
Amazon would die in a day because all they sell. Listen, Jeff, at dinner you can yell at me, but anyway, the problem with Amazon is if you look at it, 90% of what they sell is just crap. There's 10% of real stuff on there. It's like going to an outlet mall, but most of it's just junk and knockoffs and this and that don't work, that don't do this. And the mentality, unfortunately, in America over the last 50 years has been, make it cheap and the consumer doesn't care. There was a time, and Michael Collins may remember this more than you guys because you guys are younger than us, but there's a time when you bought like a Maytag or a General Electric washing machine or refrigerator, right? It would last until you died. It would last 50, it would never break. You would buy a television that was a piece of furniture, once again, until that bulb popped, that would last 20 years. You would buy whatever, a car. Just, like I remember my dad got a 72 Cadillac Capri. And I still see them on the road today. No rust, no that. Perfect. Because that's when they built things that last. Today we build disposable everything. We look at people as disposable. We look at our products as disposable. We look as family, marriage. Everything is disposable. We have to, if we're going to compete, just say with China or whoever, we have to forget America great again. That's a bunch of crap. We need to then bring manufacturing back, and we need to change the mentality of the public that no, it's enough of the disposable. Let's make good, hard quality products that last forever. But then you have to increase the wages. Then you have to increase our living standard. You have to become like a real country, which we need a real president for. And that would be awesome. But if we don't, no, we're going to keep this mentality and just keep throwing things away, whether it's, plastic straws or paper straws. So that's where we're at.
Michael, how are you seeing AI shape manufacturing? Because there's a lot of AI generated manufactured goods now, like rocket engines or jet engines rather. And people are playing with AI generated manufacturing. Is that something on your radar yet? And is that influencing this cheap goods or maybe not cheap goods market?
Well, it's going to have, it's got the good and the bad. I wrote an article several months ago about artificial intelligence, and my concern was that there are no guardrails on it. And I noticed last week, Elon Musk got on the news and said, we don't want any regulation of AI. Mm-hmm. So that ought to tell you something.
That was Vance in Paris, actually. You're right.
What's that?
Well, that was JD Vance in Paris.
Vance in Paris.
Was it?
Yeah.
Was it? So, and that's the way it's going right now. I think that there could be miraculous things that happen in manufacturing with artificial intelligence, but at the same time, then if it's no regulations, then anything goes and anybody can get in on it. It worries me. I mean, the fact that all the phishing schemes that we're trying to avoid on our computers every day will be supported by the new AI stuff. So it's a mix of good and bad. What it'll do in manufacturing, I think that there's a lot of ways that they will use it and can use it. But one of the things that bugs me is and maybe this is in keeping with what Stephen said, if you look both 50 years, the quality of customer service has gone down, just like the products. And you can't get a person anymore on the, when you need some help. And so it's more virtual assistance. And so this is not, I don't think this has helped. And I don't know that AI would, AI will probably go into more automation with less people and so on. So you got to, it's good and bad.
The question then is, what do you do with the people?
Yeah.
Like we have all these people, and like, and granted, people can type on a computer, but if I use this example, I don't know on what show, but back in the day, Ford had, let's say, 50,000, 100,000 employees in Detroit. Then someone came up with the brainstorm, hey, we're going to do some automation, throw some robots here. It'll be great. Don't worry about it. So you go from 100,000 down to 10,000. Okay, what do you do with these 90,000? So it's kind of the same thing that's happening
What you need
now.
is the NIH.
Yeah.
Well,
need the NIH
one thing
to
you
fund
could,
a
one
deadly
example,
pandemic out of China.
one example that I would use is
Can you guys
I
hear me?
was 30 years in automating factories. We built robots and palletizers and new production lines. So we eliminated a lot of jobs, since 1970. But they should have trained the people they laid off to maintain and do all the work of repairing and startup and troubleshooting and all that. They didn't do it.
Right.
There's a huge need out there for skilled people who can do preventative maintenance and do all the stuff you need to keep this stuff running, like robots.
Right.
We don't have those people, and they're not being trained because and every year all of this equipment gets more sophisticated, and you have to be almost a programmer. You have to be a pretty good mechanic. You have to understand hydraulics, and on and on and on. I've been crying about this for 25 years, and the fact that we need the old apprentice programs. Well, the corporations do not like apprentice programs that take 8,000 hours. And so they have not supported it. But we don't have these skilled people that we used to have. So one answer to your questions, Stephen, is we could have, retrained many of these people rather than just send them out, but we didn't.
Right. Yeah, and hence we're in the situation today in America that we are in. So, not good or bad yet. We'll see. We'll see what the new orange man is going to do. So we'll see. So before we let you go, Mr. Michael Collins, any final thoughts or any questions from the panel from Mr. Collins before he goes and enjoys the rest of his day in sunny California, or depending on where you're in California, burnt California?
I'm in snowy Oregon.
Oh, excuse me, snowy Oregon. There you go. That's even more better, as we say.
Well, I would like to make a final comment. Make a final comment about innovation. We're supposed to be, since the companies have outsourced most of the production, our claim to staying ahead in the global economy is we're supposed to be the innovation masters of the universe, and we're supposed to keep pouring out all these new products and new technologies. And say, if we allow larger companies to steal these products and make them in China, the country will shoot itself in its proverbial innovation foot.
Oh, so we've already done that. Good. So we're there.
We're there.
We're there. We've done that. We did that back in the 80s. We were sending transistor radios to Japan to make smaller. And in the 90s, when we woke up Mao and Nixon woke up the dragon. But when they let them have most favored nation in the 90s, it was sort of like, hey, come here, come play. And they did. And we sat back and did nothing. So we're going to get what we deserve as a country. Yeah. And some guy calling we're going to make America great again, unless they actually have a plan, which doesn't look like they do, isn't going to make America anything except learn Mandarin apparently in Russia.
Has yet to be seen, but it's fantastic to have Michael on the show. Talking about piracy in the high seas, basically.
Yeah.
High digital seas, anyway.
Yeah.
And And could I hold
can
up
do
my
whatever you'd like,
book
Michael.
one more
Of
time
course.
and
Yes.
say, dismantling the American dream really gets into all of the various things that the corporations, the large corporations, are doing, from outsourcing to stealing new product ideas.
And Michael,
So
where do they buy your book on it? I hate to say this, on Amazon, Barnes and Noble. Yeah, I just slammed Amazon. So
it's
where
on,
do they get it?
you can buy it on Amazon, or you
Okay.
can buy it from me.
Okay.
It's on my website at mpcmgt.net.
Okay. And so if you go to Amazon, you don't buy the knockoff book. You buy the real one by Michael Collins. So that'll,
That's right.
that don't buy the
right.
knockoff from China because it'll miss words and it'll
Yeah.
have a different meaning in it. Michael, as always, my friend, it is a pleasure to see you. Thank you for your time. And in a few months, we'll have you come back because by then the Orange Man will have done more stuff. We can talk about that and what's going on in the world.
Well, thank you, guys. It's good talking to you. Thank you.
Always a pleasure. Cheers, Michael.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.
He's great. I
Good
love
talking
him.
to you.
I like when he comes on. So
Always
pleasure
good.
talking.
Yeah.
It's always
Always.
good to have Michael on the show. So,
Yeah.
well, boys, I guess we're going to have to do the
Yeah.
lost and found. I like what he said. What are you going to say, John? I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say that yes, we're in a bad situation, but unless China and India, because India is a Trojan horse. Let's be
Yeah.
fair here.
Mm.
They're playing the good cop against China, but they're stealing our technology and our manufacturing too.
Everybody
let's
is,
not
though.
kid
This is not
ourselves.
like a
And
secret. It's not just, it's not just on China. Everybody's doing it. It's not like it's, oh, by the way, everybody's doing it. North Korea, South Korea,
no, but
India, China, everybody.
At that scale.
Well, China has scale.
not the scale of these two.
Right.
Not the scale of India and China. No. Now, when we're
Well, what's it?
sending, when GE is sending, the production of jet engines to China, then
Right.
the technology, the engineering, it all goes away. That know-how is disappearing faster than you can think. And the next thing you know is they're going to be doing it, and they're going to be selling it, and with it, all that export, that aviation export, which is one of the last pieces that the U.S. has, is gone, and it's practically gone there. Thank you to Boeing and its stupidity, but that's a different story.
Well, I remember I said
Yeah.
2030, Boeing will be bankrupt by 2030. So that's Boeing's not even a player anymore. They're done. So
The
it'll
Boeing
be
is
somebody
what
else.
keeps it is the defense contracting that they do for the
And
military.
everything's apparently in defense don't fall apart, as far as we know.
Mhm.
So only
Yeah.
in commercial aviation. So they should just stick with what they know how to kill people. So they do that in commercial
Yeah.
aviation too. Anyway, so all right, no, but it's interesting, and we'll have Michael back in a couple of months because Michael always
More to come. Yeah.
yeah, because we're privy to his private
Yes.
email that he sends us out, so we get to read everything he's going to say. So then we're like, we should have him on to talk about this. But you could literally have him on like every other day, and it would be fascinating just because of what's going on to comment on trade and whatnot. But for fun, just because it'll be fun to do this because we have a few minutes left, I think we should do some lost and found. What do you think?
Oh
boys?
yeah, let's do it. Let's do
All
it.
right.
Ever wonder how millions vanish into thin air, or how a single dollar can make all the difference? Join us on Lost and Found, where we dive into the wild world of financial mysteries. From misplaced fortunes to unexpected windfalls, we unravel the stories of people, companies, organizations, and even governments who've lost and found millions. Lost and Found, because every dollar has a story.
Dun-dun-dun.
Oh yes,
John,
it does.
tell us what your lost and
All right.
found is. He's got one.
Okay, I'm gonna, I'm gonna sort of piggyback on Michael about deindustrialization of America, with the whole
Okay.
point. If you ask Google AI that question, they'll say to you, how many factories has the U.S. lost since the year 2000? 70,000 factories have been lost in the U.S. since the year 2000.
That's crazy.
And so that has resulted in the loss of over 5 million jobs. In 1979, the U.S. had 20 million manufacturing jobs. Today, it's 12 million. Right? So, and most people obviously will say, we haven't gained a lot from free trade, especially at
No,
the
no.
in the lower 80%, right? In 1959, manufacturing represented 28% of economic output. In 2008, it was down to 11.5, and today it represents 10.3% of U.S. output. Right?
Wow.
Couple of more sort of numbers to
You're
chew
having
on.
some cheery notes.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So there's 1 billion cell phones sold worldwide each year, and we all know that the
Right.
U.S. was the pioneer in cell phone. Only a few thousand are manufactured in the U.S. The trade
Wow.
deficit with China is 295 billion was last year. So
Right.
at this time, China produces also four times as many vehicles each year than the U.S. does. We are even
That's
losing
just BYD.
automotive you know,
That's
uh,
just
you
just
know,
that's just BYD, John. That's like nothing. I mean, I'm telling you, America's in decline, and I know
in
it's
the
early yet.
yeah,
So,
no,
but we'll see
it's pretty.
what the orange guy's going to do.
We had, the U.S. in the early days of semiconductors, the U.S. had 100% of semiconductor
Yep.
manufacturing in the U.S.
Right, right.
Today, it's down to just 8%. Right?
Because
Yeah.
Taiwan
You
has
know,
most of it, right? Taiwan
yeah,
and
and look
Japan.
at even Russia with the
Mhm.
way we've tried to destroy produces 3 times as many artillery shells as the U.S. and Europe combined.
Well, they
Oh,
used them
wow.
all in the Ukraine though, so they had a purpose. They needed to do something with
So
them, so they had to test
the
them out.
U.S.
So,
the U.S. spends $3 on Chinese goods for every dollar that the Chinese spend on our goods. But a lot of that is just primary, primary stuff. Like
yeah,
soybeans and other. There's not much added product value there. Just so.
right.
And the final one, as a consequence of all of this, 36 million Americans live in poverty. Homelessness is now at all-time high. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, the idea of bringing back manufacturing, and all that, it makes a lot of sense because we got a lot of people, and they could certainly get employed and educated to be
Yeah.
more productive members of society. So
Is that a
think
lost or a found?
I think
I
that's
think
a
it's
huge
I think
loss
it's a
if you ask
combo.
me.
There's a combo.
It's
There's
a
some
huge
wins in there, and
a
there's a lot
huge loss.
loses. Yeah,
It's a
Yeah.
huge
it's a
loss.
huge loss. Yeah, it's
Well,
it's it's a sad state of affairs. Let's just hope
Yeah.
the new administration, and we joke
well,
on a lot about the orange man and his adopted son Elon Trump. Um, hopefully, and their 19-year-old kid who's trying to run the State Department that knows nothing. Hopefully, America. Someone wrote in the comment section of one of our shorts, America got what they voted for, and now they have to live with it. So America, you got what you voted for. Now let's hope something good comes out of it, and we'll see. I know John was excited before the show about cutting and they're pulling all that. That's great. So like I said, you go A and they got to G. They stopped. Now you have to go from H to Z, and they haven't gotten to the letter after G yet, and that's the problem. So let's see what they do, and then depending on what they do, in a couple of
well,
months, we're either going to be thumbs up or thumbs down. Michael,
I,
what do you have?
I've got a definite. Well, it could be a loss, but it could be a win
Okay.
because a hedge fund
Yeah.
has finally replaced analysts with AI, and they're beating the market. Now,
Yes.
this is a Sydney-based firm. It's brand new. They're only
Okay.
6 months in, so it's brand new. But they doubled their returns, 13.7 versus an index fund at 6.7%, but at half the price in terms of
Right.
hiring a junior analyst
But
to do
here's the
this.
best part. They're still going to do the 80/20 the way hedge funds charge their clients. So they're going to make more money.
Oh, they're
So
going to
that's
make more
definitely a
money.
win. Oh, yeah. They've been doing
Yeah.
that for years. And
Our AI overlords, the reality is our AI overlords may, let's hope they're benevolent and share some of the wealth. Let's see what happens.
Or I
Yeah.
told you at the Illuminati lizard people dinners we have, you're all
Yeah.
dead. Just know it
Yeah.
now. We're going to kill you all. I'm just letting you know. So enjoy it while you
We
can.
got a few years though, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe. We'll see. Yeah, I'll tell you next week after dinner.
Yeah.
So here's two that are funny to me. This first one is we kind of discussed that Donald Trump is to halt enforcement of all banning bribery of foreign official laws. the FT came out with something to say that rolling back the anti-graft laws would be turning global market or deal making into a free-for-all. And I am like, oh my God, I am so excited. I cannot wait. This is going to be like a sailor with $50 going into a whorehouse. It's going to be deals, 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 deals. In my little world of IB, everyone's just going to get fatter and richer, which means we can get rid of all the little people. Sorry. The other thing, which I thought was interesting. Oh, stop. I like the little people. Who's going to, whatchamacallit, cook me dinner and dress me in the morning?
Blue Origin is firing 10% of their workforce. I guess the rocket didn't work out so well.
It didn't work out too well. No, he's Bezos is Bezos, and the other one, which you both will get a kick out of, Central Africa. For most of you that don't know where that is, that's in the continent of Africa. Following Donald Trump, the meme coin launched. The SCAR crypto token plunges in value, debuts over the project's authenticity. The leader of Africa's poorest nation has mimicked Donald Trump with the launch of so-called meme coins. And that is from the Central African Republic. So if you get your chance to buy the Donnie meme coin, which increased his net worth by 80 billion, you can go to Central Africa, you can buy their meme coin, and you can lose money right away. So congratulations. I just thought that was the funniest thing. So to answer your question, I don't know if that's a win or a loss. It just depends how you bet that coin. So, but that's the new thing. Look at that. You know, Blue Origin blows up
probably
their
a loss
rocket.
for all the people that buy it.
I don't think anybody bought it.
I don't know how
It's
people are so
Central Africa.
gullible. You know,
Really?
Yeah.
Come on.
Anyway.
There was a bridge in Brooklyn. There was the Eiffel Tower.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. Come on. Listen.
At this stage, come on.
I don't know. People, Roll said on his show.
Desperation.
Yeah. Well, they want the savior complex. So maybe we're all hoping Donnie saves us. I don't know from what, but alien invasion, maybe. So we'll see.
Not yet.
Guys,
all right.
Not yet. It's coming. This was fun. We should do this again next Friday, but we'll do it at our normal time. So David can join us.
Normal time next time.
Do we have a guest next week, or is it just the
None
fun
of it.
hotels?
It's just Stooges. Yes,
it's just us girls. Okay. The four of us will be here. So everybody that's listening on the podcast, thank you. Anybody that was watching, thank you. If you watched it live, very cool. If not, we broadcast on Saturday. We will see you all next Friday at 8:30 Eastern time in the morning. It'll just be us. So we're sorry. And if you have a topic you'd like us to cover, put it in the comments section. And if not, we will see you all next week. Cheers, everybody. Don't forget to subscribe and like. Tell your friends. Or if you didn't like the show, don't tell anybody.